Okay. This is gonna be a demonstration for doing your practice in the Adobe version of Photoshop. So I'm gonna just do a few things here just because I wanted to show you guys from the very start. So let me just log out of Photoshop, close this out. Okay, so we're gonna use the, oh, looks like I can't log out of this, or actually I'm trying to remember how to log out. I think I had to go through Windows Help and this, oh yeah, sign out, okay. Alright, so I just want to show you guys from square one where to, locate Photoshop and everything. Okay, so, you'll just sign in regularly on the iMac computers, just refresh on the logins. I'm going to, have it posted on the dry erase boards if you need to look at it again. But again, it really pertains to what, period and class you're in. But once you get into the iMac computer, you're going to click on the Finder. I'm going to go to Applications. It may show up on your dock though, but you're going to look for Adobe Photoshop 2023. But you click on it by clicking on the Favorites tab here. This should be open, Applications, and you're going to go to Adobe Photoshop. And Adobe Photoshop to click and open it. So just like the same thing you've done in the past before, you'll have to just sign in. Oh, I forgot we used the Illustrator array. So it may be signed in already, so don't worry if you don't need to sign in again. I forgot you guys use Photoshop, or not Photoshop, Illustrator, which is an Adobe product. So once you sign in with the Adobe one time, you don't have to sign in again. But you can sign in though, just sign in with your email. Don't click on Continue with Google. Just write your email here. Do company school account. Don't do personal account. Okay, just company school account, and then do your regular login. Okay, so just make sure to log in properly because it may lock out your account. All right, so once you log into Photoshop, it's going to open up your creative Adobe Cloud. So basically, anything that's saved on your Photoshop on the iPad will revert onto the iMac version. So you probably only have like your last thing that you worked on. So all you gotta do is just click on it. So I'm just gonna click on this one right here, and it may take a little bit of time for it to load just because it's got to save and then upload it onto the computer cache files or something. Okay, so once you click on your file, you're gonna basically what you worked on before though is gonna just show up on your iMac version. Okay, so just a couple of things just to introduce you to the Photoshop version of the iMac. So again, it looks a little bit differently though. This is a format I'm a little bit more comfortable with. So if you notice, like sometimes when I help you guys out with the iPad version of the Photoshop, I may fumble or not know where things are. But this one I'm more familiar with. So now even before you get started though, you might want to just set the setting on because it may not be the setting on your computer. But you go to Windows, go to click on Workspace and click on Photography. So I always like the photography format just because you have everything you need here. But yeah, set up this format though, but most of them look the same though. All your tools are on the left side. Your layers are on the right side. It's pretty much the same thing though, but the only difference though is you'll have like multiple more windows to play around with or adjust as you're working, and you may need to open like more windows depending on like what you're specifically doing. So okay, so that's that's pretty much it though. And then one of the other differences too is there's gonna be a bunch of like hotkeys for Adobe Photoshop. I'm gonna make sure to just tape them up on the side of the computer like we did with Adobe Illustrator. But I'll mention a couple of hotkeys as I'm working along. But these are gonna be hotkeys that you definitely want to just kind of keep in mind of or be aware of as you're working. Okay. So now, even before we get started with editing in Photoshop, I want you to just take some time to just rearrange your photo collage. So this is if you didn't get like a chance to rearrange things as you were cutting along in the program. But I just want to just give you some general tips about like how to arrange your photo collage. So if you click on your layers window down here, it should be a little bit easier to see like all your different layers and what you're working with. So for example, I have my cloud here. I can click on the eyeball here. This stuff's a little bit easier to kind of like, figure out where things are, design the space, kind of like, manipulate, move your photo collage around. So, for example, if I wanted to move this bird around, I can click on the bird with the layer, use the move tool. You can move it around. Whoops. Okay, so if you want to move things individually around, though, just real important, make sure to click on or deselect the auto select. Because what the auto select does is it basically just selects the thing that's in the closest. So I would just click on the auto select because you may have like multiple layers. Might be hard to move things. So I'm gonna click on the bird here, and now I can move this bird wherever I want. So just make sure to move things where you want them to be. So another thing too is we didn't really talk too much about this though, but just like the layers in Procreate, it works the same way in Photoshop. So for example, if I want this bird to be behind the horse, then I would move this bird on the bottom layer. So you see like the horse is in the front. Now the horse is on this layer right here. So if I were to move this horse around, it's in front of this bird here, in front of that bird. It's not in front of this person here. And the person is like right above the layer on top. So if I move this on top though, it'll be in front of the person. So this is something you'll have to kind of keep in mind of, as you're working on your photo collage. Do you want things to be in the very, front of the picture? So I can even move it even in front of like the snow if I wanted to. I can move that in the front. Or do I want to move it behind everything? Okay, so I just kind of keep that in mind. You can spend a little bit of time just to click, move things around, design the space. I feel like it's a little bit easier in the iMac version of Photoshop just because you can move it around and you can actually see all your layers because it's kind of hard to see the layers on that smaller screen. And then you can also use the arrow keys to move it like very minimal steps. All right. Okay, and then one thing to show you too is history panel. So it doesn't really show the history in here, but you go to Windows, History. You have like all the different commands that you did. So you don't have to click undo like multiple times. And the iMac version of Photoshop, the whole command press Z to undo. So kind of similar to like the Adobe Illustrator, command Z is undo. But you can actually go to your histories panel and then just kind of go back to the very beginning or wherever you want to change the go back your steps. Okay, so now I'm actually happy with like the way I arranged it just because I did it beforehand, but I wanted to make sure you guys are aware that you can rearrange your photo collage in front, behind, or left and right, and you can use the arrow keys to move around. Okay, so one of the things I do want you to do on the Adobe version of Photoshop on the iMac is you're going to use the type tool. Now there is a type tool in the iMac or iPad version, but definitely a lot more fonts you can kind of play around with in the other versions. So I'm just going to click on the type tool here, click on it. You can either arrange it either horizontal, vertically. So I'm just going to do horizontal here. And then I'm going to just type in my name. So Dave Juan. Just put Dave Juan. Okay, so you just need to type in your name. So this will be mainly for like your title for like your movie posters when we get to that. Now, if you look at my layers window though, this is just showing up in like a random layer. So whatever layer I picked on, it just moves to the top. So just kind of bear in mind, I'm probably gonna move it behind the snow, but in the front. So okay, so you got the type tool here. So if you click on the T here on the layers, you can control the type tool even further. So this will increase the size of your font. But in terms of like resizing it though, I like using the Command T as in turtle to resize it. So Command T turtle, this is going to resize your text. A little bit easier to control than the other one. So you can just type in your name here. And I'm going to double click on the T so you can change your fonts over here. Again, I feel like this is a little bit easier to control and manipulate, but if you just use the arrow keys, you can kind of just move up and down and find the font that you want to use. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about type, but just kind of pick any font for your name. Not a big deal. I'll just use this Atlas. You can change the boldness of it. So I can just do regular, make it a little less bold. and then you can also change the color too. So I'm gonna go with I'll go with like a green, or we'll do an orange. Okay, so I'm just gonna click away, and then we got my words here. So okay, so that's the general way of like manipulating text in the font. And then again, you can use the arrow keys to move it around, you know, little pixels, you know, something you can't really do on the iPad version unless if you connect your keyboard, which is you know, kind of annoying to have to like work without the keyboard and then have to connect it for like that little thing. So you know, I feel like a little bit easier to move around with it. Okay, so that's one thing, is I want you to just use the type tool, just, you know, type in your name. Also, there's some really neat blending options. So these are like special effects you can incorporate in your type. So if you right click on the T on here, or you may need to do Control T too. So Control T is right click as well. Most of your computers are kind of set up the right click already, but if you don't have a right click though, let me know. You might have to just do Control T if you don't. But I can fix it if you don't have it though. And then we're going to play around with the blending options. So you can do a couple of neat things with this. So these are like special effects you incorporate with your text. So if I wanted to incorporate like a black stroke, I would just check this off, click on the tab. So make sure you click on the tab too, because it's really easy to just click on it and then you don't know what it's doing. But you click on the tab though, it will give you like options on things you can do. So for like the stroke, I can, you know, make it darker. So it's doing it dark on the inside. I'm actually going to do it on the outer edge. I got this bezeled on, so I'm gonna take that off. So this will create more of like an outer edge, you know, outline for it. You can change the opacity too. So yeah, a couple of things you can do with that. Or if you want to, you know, if you don't want to do a stroke, you know, you could do kind of like a bezeled effect. So this will allow you to kind of change around the effects on it. So you have to kind of play around with it. I'm not super familiar with like the bezeled option, but this will just kind of make it look a little more three-dimensional, especially if it's like a really thick text that you're working with. So I'm just gonna move it over. So Command plus zooms in. Spacebar will, you know, help you to move the space to hand tool. So that's a bezeled effect on here. I might want to keep that just because I like that little 3D look. You can also do like a inner, outer glow. Those are my favorite ones to use. So, you know, let's just say I wanted to make it have like an orange glow on the edge. You know, that could be something that's really neat to do. So you just have to play around with the, oh, I'm on the color still. Play around with the size, the spread. Now, outer glow actually looks a lot better if it's like a nighttime picture. So I'll just kind of, let me just show you guys if it's something a little bit darker. So I'm just gonna color this in black. So, you know, kind of keep in mind though that light plays at least somewhat of an effect on your look or feel of like certain things. So I'm just gonna paint bucket tool this black. Oops. Layer here, just paint bucket black. So you see like how that glow is looking a lot better there. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're working, because like that glow did not look good on the other one. You do an inner glow, outer glow, inner glow. Inner glow won't really show up too well on mine, but you know, this is like more for like characters, and I can show you guys with the characters. You also do a gradient too. Gradients are pretty fun as well. So you can do different color gradients. I like those legacy gradients, so I'm gonna show you how to pull up those gradients on yours, but you know, you can do like different kinds of gradients, you know, to create like a different look for your words. Okay, so that's the type tool, something you want to play around with. And then another thing you can do too is you could do blending options on your characters as well. So for example, like this bird in the very front. Oh, and then one thing you'll notice too is you see like there's a really random line over here. So make sure when you cut out your images, I know this is from like this picture here, You can check it here, but it's coming from this image right here with the person's hands. Just make sure you clean that up though. That happens sometimes when you when you're cutting out like directly on the edge. So just change this to 100. We'll get rid of that line there. There's actually one more line on the other side. Yeah, right here. Okay, you might run into that problem once in a while though. Okay. So, let's just say I want to do like some special effects on some of the cutouts that I did. So, for example, like this bird right here, you can also do the same thing. You can do blending options. Let's just say I want to do like the inner outer glow effect. I can do it for like this bird as well. So, yeah, let's just kind of play around with it. So you'll notice it does something a little weird on the edges. So this is just because you didn't cut it out perfectly though. Like you see like this like random dot over here. So you have to just use or go back to your layer mask, color black, and now get rid of it. So it just happens sometimes when you don't cut it out perfectly though. Overall though, most of this is pretty good though. So I can do like an inner and then outer inner glow. The inner glow is going to show up a little bit better on this one. So if I click on inner glow, I'm going to use that same orange I had before, a similar orange. Basically do kind of like a glow on the inside. So this is really good for like those superhero character effects, if that's something you're going with. Let's play around with this. Okay, so yeah, that's blending options with the text, the characters. And then actually we go over levels later. I did want to show you this one thing. So gradient maps. So gradient maps. We can click on I'm going to go to the very top layer here, and then I'm going to click on. Actually, before you even start that, so go to Windows Gradient Maps, or Windows Gradients. This one was say Windows Gradients. So there is a gradient pack I want you to add on here that may not be on your Photoshop. But if you click on the three buttons here in Legacy Gradients, this will add another set of gradients on here. These are actually my favorite gradients to use. One, this is Legacy Gradients. I'm going to delete this though. Sorry, I have this, but yeah, make sure to enable that first. But if you go there and then go in the top layer, click on Gradient Maps. This will kind of give your like photo or your image like that same look all the way around. So I really like using these photographic tones. These are like different types of like sepia tones for like the movie poster. So a lot of like, or one common thing people like to use for like the movie poster is like, kind of like a little sepia tone to it. So this could be like an effect or look you want to go for with your photos. And then if you wanted to though, you can lower the opacity. So if it's a little too strong though, you can just kind of partially have it or have it all the way. I'm curious what the overlays will look. I guess you could do overlays as well. I always like playing around with overlays. So it's just gonna slightly change the colors a little bit. This is kind of neat. This is a really strong contrast here. Lower the opacity a little bit more. So very subtle changes you can do for like the, your picture. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it though in terms of the iMac version of the Photoshop. In terms of like the movie poster itself though, I'm gonna show you just like one or two more things. There's another option where you can kind of change the color balance, the brightness and levels of like specific things. Yeah, I feel like the gradient map's kind of enough to kind of put all the colors together, but you'll notice like some colors and things don't match up especially when you do your movie posters. So there's a way you can kind of like make sure everything is together. But again, that's a little bit more advanced though. Okay, and then there's also some filters I'll show you guys later though. But yeah, this is pretty much it though in terms of what I want to show you on the iMac version of Photoshop.